Hello everyone, my name is Andres, and in celebration of this year's release of Avengers Infinity War, I am reviewing all MCU movies. This time I am reviewing The Avengers. So here it finally is, the long awaited movie. People have been dying to see this movie since the original Iron Man back in 2008. Did it live up to the hype? Absolutely yes. Does it still hold up, in my opinion, after having rewatched it a couple of times? Well, let's find out, shall we? This movie was released back in 2012 and was highly anticipated since that little tease we got in Iron Man that promised us an Avengers movie. That was back in 2008, and 4 years had passed since then. And it will be another 6 years if you're counting down to Avengers Infinity War. The movie was a critical and box office success at the time. But over the years, it became, how do I say it, cool to hate on this movie. It became cool to say, oh, it was just the hype that made me like the movie. And it didn't stand the test of time, like, at all. I'm here to tell you, that statement is bullshit. It is pure bullshit. Even worse and quite contradictory, when Avengers Age of Ultron came out, there were reviews stating that it wasn't as good as the first Avengers movie, and then proceeded to give it a bad rating because of that. But I digress. I think this movie stood the test of time really well. Well, for the most part it did. I have to admit, after countless of rewatches, I don't think it's the super awesome, flawless movie anymore. But more on that when I discuss the good things and the bad things about this movie. Let's first get the director and cast out of the way, shall we? And boy, it is a long cast list. So, the movie was directed by Joss Whedon. In a moment, I'll explain why Joss Whedon is a good director later. But now the cast. So, the movie stars Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man / Tony Stark, Chris Evans as Steve Rogers / Captain America, Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner / the Hulk, Scarlett Johansson as Natasha Romanoff / Black Widow, Jeremy Renner as Clint Barton / Hawkeye, Tom Hiddleston as Loki, Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, and yes, Clyde Gregg is back as Agent Coulson. Let's talk about the good stuff, and luckily there's a lot of that in this movie. The directing is great. Joss Whedon really had an eye for detail. The set design and camera placement was beautiful, and he did get great performances out of his actor. All of the cast gives it their all with what they had, and it's really cool to see these well-known actors treating these nerdy and geeky roles and characters with such respect and dignity. And the Black Widow character finally got a lot more to do, and we finally could start to consider her a three-dimensional character in this movie. Unlike Iron Man 2, where she just was in it for eye candy. Here she is so much more than just that. You got a bit of backstory now and scenes that display her personality really well. In this movie, she was more than just a character you liked because of her sexiness. Let's talk about the recasting of Bruce Banner, with Edward Norton being replaced by Mark Ruffalo. And honestly, Mark Ruffalo does a much better job at portraying Bruce Banner. I think he's really calm and collective. You really get the feeling that he's been able not to transform into the Hulk for over a year now. Yet, when the rage kicks in, he does that very well too. Edward Norton just opened his eyes really wide. But that does not constitute anger for me personally. This movie also gave us the first universally loved movie with Hulk in it. However, I still contend to this day it is possible to make a solo Hulk movie that is well received. I am not one of those people who thinks that Hulk is only works in team-up movies. Although, that is where the character shines. Let's talk about the villain. Loki. He was so great in this movie. He was well written, and he acted very well, just like the movie before. The original Thor, that is. And the movies following after this one, he did a marvelous job as well. What is there more to say than that he is truly the best villain in the MCU? Yet, maybe Thanos will change that. Who knows? This movie also teased the coming of Avengers Infinity War. So that was pretty cool that we immediately had something new to get hyped for. The writing and character interactions in this movie are also phenomenal, keeping you hooked even during the slower parts. Lastly, this movie is 2 hours and 20 minutes long, but it flies by so fast you really don't notice it. That's how invested I was during my 500th rewatch of it. Now, onto the bad. Most of these are minor gripes, but I think they're worth mentioning anyway. Let's address the elephant in the room. Hawkeye. Although Black Widow's character was greatly improved upon, Hawkeye didn't get to do that much during this movie. At the start of this movie, he gets brainwashed and only snaps out of it towards the end so that he can participate in the grand finale. That's it. His complete story arc in this movie. That's it. There's nothing more to it. Now, onto something that bugs me because I've seen Avengers Age of Ultron and I know what's coming. But what the hell? Were Romanoff and Banner supposed to show some romantic interest in this movie? Because it is not set up at all in this movie. When Avengers Age of Ultron started, they were already in full-on romance, and the filmmakers defended that, saying that it was set up in the movie, in the previous movie, this one. That is bullshit. You can clearly see that is not what they were going for. Even in their first scene together, sure, they had good chemistry, but not in a romantic interest way. If you ask me, Black Widow showed a lot more affection for Hawkeye in this movie. With Loki literally saying, "Is this love, Agent Romanoff?" But they retconned that whole storyline in the sequel, Avengers Age of Ultron. Also, Captain America drew the second shortest straw in this movie. He was in this movie because he had to be in it. Because he's fucking Captain America, that's why. He was more portrayed as a super gymnast instead of being the badass that he could be. Believe me, we have seen it in later movies. Or we will see it in later movies. Whatever. Furthermore, I wasn't a fan of his costume and helmet either. It was a bit too cheesy for me. Luckily, they improved upon that again in the later movie. Lastly, and this is pure nitpicking and just me personally, but there's something about the scene with Iron Man, Loki, Cap, and Thor in the woods. Why did Iron Man grab Thor instead of Loki? And am I the only one who thinks that from the moment Cap shows up in that scene, the dialogue goes to shit? And why did they bring Loki back onto the ship after seeing that he didn't leave yet. But these were pretty much all the plot holes I noticed and I personally had problems with. Now to end this review, let's give it a rating. My ratings, ranked from worst to best, are as follows. Shit, bad, meh, good, awesome. And I give The Avengers an awesome. It's still a great movie and it holds up really well, and it definitely deserves all of the praise it gets for pulling off a superhero team-up movie so effortlessly. But it's definitely not the best superhero movie ever, in my opinion. See you next time, where I will be reviewing Iron Man 3.